Okay, welcome to Gold Scratch. It's Saturday morning, February 21st, and we're going to do our favorite thing. We're on the way to Daryl's Dyno, Clarence, Washington's 389 Pontiac engine's been there since Thursday. Daryl will have it all ready to fire up for us when we get there. Clarence is also on the way here, and I also have Brian Haftar from Heads Performance coming today. Brian partnered with me on this project, so he did all the machining and supplied all the parts for it, so he's as much a part of it as I am. So that's all good. I made a video earlier in the week, finally got it started. We had all those issues with the dipstick parts and gaskets, all that was behind us. The engine started and it ran good. The engine assembly went together very nicely, no issues at all. But I got some stuff to tell you that's reality, because sometimes I call this reality YouTube, because it's easy for us to just gloss over all that and show you the engine, making power, and let's go for lunch. But it's not always that way, and if you don't have a lot of experience with this, it's something that you got to be aware of. So after I made that video a few days ago of the first startup in the snowbank with open headers and all that, and you can check that out, the engine ran fine. That was, I think, Wednesday. I had to get it to Daryl's by Thursday. I still had to change the valve springs and change the oil and get it ready for the dyno. So on the very last startup, the water pump starts to leak. Where'd that come from? So it was the original water pump. So when you call your parts supplier, mine is APC Auto Parts Centers here in London, Canada, and you ask for a water pump for a 62-year-old engine, you kind of hold your breath because you don't know what they're going to say to you. So in this case, they were able to get me one, but overnight. So now we're into Thursday, right? So, and when I went to change the water pump, the engine's already on the test stand. I have to take the rat out of the test stand in order to get at the water pump, take all the pulleys off and all that. I noticed a little leak in the front timing cover seal. Now it's even getting more serious. So now you got to take the entire timing cover off. And a Pontiac, that's a fairly involved deal. It's not like a small block Chev. It's a lot more involved than that. Fuel pump has to come back off, a whole bunch of things. And now you need a gasket for the timing cover. So Bill Little bailed me out on that. He sourced one for me. Had to go to his shop and get it. Leak, but we don't want any leaks. So timing cover came off, cleaned the gasket up, run the bills, got it back together, got it to Daryl's. But it was a long day, expensive day that I didn't plan on. But these are the things this is reality, guys. If you're working on cars or working on engines, it's not like you see in the movies. Things don't always go perfectly, and you just got to deal with it. And you got a deadline. I had 4 months to build this engine and get it ready for the dyno, and it ended up working. I was supposed to be at Daryl's at 5:30. I got there at 6 o'clock. So that's how it works. But anyway, all's well that ends well, according to my mother. She used to say that all the time. So we're good to go. The engine's on the dyno. It's ready to fire up, and we're hoping to have a fun day, and we'll see you later. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching Gold Scratch. Okay, so we're finally at the dyno. Daryl's got it all set up. We have not fired it up yet. I just wanted to verify the compression, all the stuff we had to do at the last minute. I didn't get a chance to do that. So one of the issues of this Melling cam, and I'll describe it later, as a pretty late closing point. So even though we have 10.25 to 1 or 10.3 to 1 compression, the cranking pressure won't be really high. And that's pretty similar to, even a 427 L88 engine. If you look on the GM specs, only has 160 psi compression. So let's see what it's got. So there's the gauge there. We'll crank her over and see. So I got about 160, 68 something.
buck, isn't it? Yeah, we'll look at the averages and see what it did.
Okay, we made 4 or 5 pulls with Clarence's 389 Pontiac, but I want to point out something that might be obvious to most people, but maybe not to everybody. So if Alec wants to come in here and look at this, this is the original stock intake manifold, and so it actually numbers the cylinders. You can see that's number 3, and this is number 2. So that runner, if you wonder why, this is a dual plane manifold, which means that one's on top of the other. It isn't open at the top. So this runner goes to number 2 cylinder, number 3 cylinder. Why does it pick? How does it pick those cylinders? It's not random. Number 2 and 3 cylinders, pistons, come to the top TDC at the same time, 360 degrees apart. So when number 2 is firing, number 3 is on the overlap cycle. And when number 3 is firing, number 2 is on the overlap cycle. So when one's on the overlap cycle, the other one's firing, it doesn't need any fuel air, and the other one needs as much as it can get. So the idea is that the intake runners for any dual plane manifold are always matched to the runner goes to the 2 cylinders, and that would be the same with 1 and 6, 5 and 8, and 4 and 7. Those pistons all come to the top at the same time. It's just easier to show you 2 and 3 because it's right at the front. So that might be obvious to most people, but maybe not everybody. So hopefully that's a little tip to give you an understanding how intake manifolds are designed and how they decide to pick where all these runners go from where the carburetor is. Here's the other interesting thing about Pontiacs. The distributor, the firing order is the same and the cylinder numbers are the same. The difference is on the Pontiac, number 2 cylinder is at the front, and so the connecting rod on number 2 cylinder is at the front of the crankshaft, and number 1's at the back. So on a small block Chev and most other engines, the number 1 cylinder is the most front cylinder. The other thing is the distributor goes in the other side of the camshaft, so it turns backwards. Well, it turns counterclockwise. So there probably is no front and backwards. So when you're used to timing a small block Chev, advancing the timing is this way, retarding is this way, and a Pontiac it's the opposite because the distributor is rotating counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for me here today. So okay, thanks. We'll go on to the next step. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in to Gold's Garage. We got Clarence Washington here with us today. And thank you very much, Clarence, for not just trusting me with your Pontiac 389 cherished 1964 Pontiac Bonneville engine. Appreciate that. And driving all the way from Louisville, Kentucky in the wintertime. Appreciate that very much, man. Okay. And I got Brian Haftar from Heads Performance Machine. So Brian and I partnered on this deal. Brian provided all the machine services and the parts, and really helpful with us. Pontiacs are unique. If you saw the previous video where we were scrambling for the right parts for the, you know, doesn't sound that important, it's just a dipstick, but you can't put the engine together without it, so you have to have it, right? So all's well that ends well. So Clarence's engine is originally 1964 Pontiac Bonneville 4-barrel carburetor version, 10.25 to 1 compression. So stock 305 horsepower, that's the specification. So we put a Melling 26204 cam in it. It's a Melling cam. These cams are similar to an OEM cam. They have very, very soft ramps, and that's good for long life. And you can tell that because the duration at 50 on the intake is only 214, and it's 288. 214 at 50 and 288 advertised. That's a big, like 74 degrees difference, and that tells you how nice and soft the ramps are. So that makes it, even though it's got a lot of advertised duration, 214, 224 is at 50, and it's 443, 465. So it's one step higher than a stock camshaft. And Melling says, I did a bunch of research on this, and I even went to AI. You can expect to gain 10 to 15 horsepower on a stock build. And that's exactly what we did. We are at 320 horsepower. So, but well over 400 foot-pounds of torque, flat torque curve. I'll put a screenshot of the torque and horsepower curve. And that's all in by about 5,000 RPM. So for those who are interested, this cam is 112 LSA, and I got it in at 108 degree centerline. So I think it was a good choice. Still idles just like it did before, basically, no difference. And it'll have nice broad torque curve right up to like 4,000 RPM, just where you need it. So that's basically the only modification that we made. The heads are stock. We had a nice, Brian did a good valve job on them for us. We got almost exactly the same compression ratio as stock. It was 10.25. I think my calculation's 10.3. So a lot of these older engines, we improve on them by adding compression. Well, we couldn't really add much more than 10.25. So, and if you don't modify the heads, the stock intake manifold, that's pretty much what you got. So I think it's going to be a nice motor for your engine, for your car, Clarence. So after that, I let Brian once again. He did all the machining and all the parts supply for me, and he came to us, helped us out when we were in trouble. So Brian?
Yeah, thanks Alan, thanks Clarence for coming up. It's a little bit of a drive, and
That's okay.
it's not the best time of the year to come up here and be picking up a motor, but we're happy to help you out. And you got a great motor, and hopefully you'll have lots of enjoyment out of it with your wife at the car shows and stuff. And
Appreciate
look
that.
forward to working with everybody else again. And parts are sometimes hard to get, and sometimes the catalogs aren't really right now with the description and the correct years for certain parts. And that's a challenge for somebody like myself, because these motors are well before my time, and I don't do a lot of them. But we like learning, and we like working with people, and we work with our customers. That's the main thing, and we'll continue to do so hopefully in the future. So
So that's about all I got, Clarence. So you're the man. It's your motor, and so whatever you got for us.
First off, I want to say thanks to Alan and his team, and this has really been an experience for me, and I enjoyed it. Even today is the best experience, but I have to give out some thanks to, first off, let me give thanks to Bill Little and Tom. This is Tom.
Tom Winter, yep.
And let me give thanks to DYNO also. But I got to give a special thanks to this guy. He went above and beyond. He gave me some stuff that I didn't think I was going to get, but I got it. And I will have the best motor built for an old school 64 Pontiac Bonneville, hands down. That's it.
I will put a picture of Clarence's Bonneville in the video actually as well. So, and we'll put a picture of all the data that we got so you can see for yourself. So, anything else, guys?
no.
So, I always forget. Thanks for watching. Daryl didn't feel like talking today, so he's hiding in the background. But he reminded me to like and subscribe, and that's really important. Share if you got Pontiac buddies. Every time I learn something else. I mean, they're unique. They're not all the same. So if you got a Pontiac buddy that could enjoy learning from this, pass it on to them. We appreciate that, and that's how we keep going. As long as we keep gaining subscribers and views, we'll keep digging. Thank you for watching Gold Scratch.